Jeff Gordon has joined us. He drives the number 24, Drive to End Hunger Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports, and he's our defending race winner here at Pocono. And right now, I believe Jeff is 10th in points. And certainly as we now have 6 races before we solidify that chase field, I know you'd like to get a win. And certainly this is a place you ran well last season. And maybe just talk about that and just talk about your entire outlook this weekend here for the 2014.
Yeah, it's a good track for us, a good place for us to come and fight and do battle like what we've been, used to doing this year and last year to claw our way into the chase. And, there's not enough points that are safe enough, and you want to get those wins to try to secure things up for you. But, we got a lot of tough competitors that we're racing and that battling with for 10th in points as well as those wild card spots. So to me, our focus is just getting out there and living up to our full potential and getting some consistency out of it. I mean, it's been one of those years where we've seen guys, they hit on something, they go out and they win the race, and it's not necessarily there's no way to predict when and who that's going to happen with, and that's why we just have to continue to stay focused and work hard, because that could be us, and if it's not, we gotta make sure we're knocking down those top 10s.
For Jeff, we'll start right here with Lee. If we can get Lee a mic. Mine doesn't work.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. You guys were waiting to use the majority of your test later in the year. Are you at a point now where you really need to start using them to ensure that you do make the chase?
Well, we also had some tire tests, that we had scheduled. So, we tire tested at Indy, tire tested New Hampshire. I feel like the one at Indy paid off for us. The one at New Hampshire did not. The conditions were different when we went back, and I felt like, and now we're having to go back there again. We have a test plan there this coming up week. So, I think that we've got some good tests planned. I think it worked. That's the tricky part about it, is it's got to balance out for all of your teammates, because it incorporates the whole organization on these tests. And so we've got to compromise a little bit for us where we're at in points versus where they are, and they got to compromise with us a little bit. So I think we found the best balance right now, and we've got a good plan.
All the way back in the back. Go ahead, sir.
During a test at the Glen, speeds were way up from what they used to be. Just what kind of challenges are those added speeds going to present? This car definitely has a really good amount of downforce in it and drag, which helps you get into braking zones and is definitely going to make lap times come down at a place like Watkins Glen. That's such a fast road course. I don't know if the tire changed there compared to the past, if that contributed to that as well. But, the faster you go, and especially if you're getting into braking zones harder, then the harder it is to have an advantage in those braking zones versus your competitors. And so the more challenges come along with that. And of course, the faster you go, the more on edge that you're putting the grip of the tires in the car. And so, I look for it to be a pretty exciting race, and those that if it's tough to pass, and that means that the restarts, those double file restarts, are going to get wild and crazy, like we've seen so much of in the past on the road courses.
David Newton. Off to the left, David Newton.
Yeah, Jeff, David Newton, ESPN.com. When you came into the sport, you kind of energized things because you were the challenger to the old guard and Dale Earnhardt. You haven't seen a lot of young drivers come up and be that guy lately, last 5 or 6 years. Do you think that's something this sport is missing right now?
I think that that's always great. It's always exciting to have, and how Jimmy Johnson's been the dominant force. I don't think a lot of people thought of him as the young gun because he wasn't super young when he came in the sport, but he certainly has, you know, taken all challengers and thrown them off to the side. You know, I feel like, you know, that nobody's really rivaled him, and he doesn't really have a rivalry there. So, you know, if he can, you know, keep that up, which all signs point that he will, and then an exciting young driver comes along and is with a good team that can challenge him, that'd be the best thing the sport could ever ask for, in my opinion. There's a couple of them out there, but they're a few years away, unfortunately. You know, and then there's always those surprises, guys you didn't anticipate, guys you didn't know about, that come out of nowhere and just blow you away. I mean, Jimmy Johnson was sort of one of those guys. You know, I don't think many people anticipate him to do what he did in the Cup Series, and look what he's done. So there's guys that aren't on the radar that could do that, and then there's a couple that we all know about that are on the radar.
Let's go to David, and then we'll go to the young lady right here.
David Caravello, NASCAR.com. Jeff, I don't know if you saw a video of Tony's sprint car flip this week, but as a former sprint car driver, did you ever have that mentality that you wanted to race every night of the week? And you've had your own reasons for limiting your racing as you've gotten older, but I mean, do you understand that mentality and kind of where it comes from?
You're trying to compare my mentality to Tony Stewart's mentality? Because I think he could sit right here and argue that as well. No, you know, I mean, I remember 1991 when I was racing nationwide and Silver Crown and midget and sprint cars. And it was cool and exciting and fun and everything. But when I got full-time in the nationwide series, you know, I just wanted to focus on that. And you know, I tried to do nationwide and Cup a couple times, and I didn't really enjoy going back and forth. But you know, I my hat's off to the guys that do that and enjoy it and do well with it. I did not see his video, and I spoke to him. He seems to be okay, so I'm glad to hear that. But sprint cars are, to me, some of the most exciting and fun race cars there are to drive. You know, and anything that you do, you know, you can put yourself at risk. So, you know, I think that he knows the risks versus the rewards and chooses to do that, and I think that's awesome that he does. And he certainly is very impressive when he gets in them, how competitive he is, and you know, winning World of Outlaw sprint races or being competitive, you know, in those races is unbelievable. I certainly look up to him in that way because I race those guys in sprint cars and know how difficult that is, especially when you're not doing it all the time. So, but you know, if he was a young driver that was coming to work for Hendrick Motorsports, I would try to discourage him from doing that. Because that's an investment to us as a team, you know, and we ask a lot out of our sponsors and our team and everything, but he's the team owner, so there's no you know, asking that out of him, and you don't want to take away that joy that those individuals have. You want them to make those decisions and choices on their own, and just understand what they're getting themselves into. And some of the younger guys maybe don't always appreciate that, but somebody like Tony, I think, does, and you know, handles himself well with it.
Off to the left. Go ahead, young lady.
Candace Smith, drafting the circuits. Jeff, last June we saw Chase Elliott win an ARCA race. We saw Jeb Burton win a truck race. Just curious, is there any plan to put on the dad owner hat for your daughter, your son in the near future? I mean, these kids start at 3 and 4 years old with their racing careers. Is that something you think about for your children?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, when my son was born, I thought about that. My daughter, you know, I kind of want to wait and see what kind of interest level she has. And I just knowing the things that she's interested in, I don't see her being that one, but she is very competitive. But my son just loves race cars already, you know, at a very young age. And, you know, he reminds me of myself. I never wanted to get behind the wheel of a car. I was always like, no. But when you got me in it, I loved it and I was good at it. and that's kind of how he is. He's not really the first one to go just jump in at it, but once you do, he's pretty excited about it, and he does very well. So, but for both kids, I think both kids will drive a race car at some time, and then to me, it's introducing them to it and seeing what kind of interest level they have, and whether they're enjoying it and whether they're good at it, and go from there. It's nerve-wracking for me to consider and think about that option, because every parent that I talk to says that it's like the worst torture you could ever have, because you're just not in control. You're that's your child, so you have this fear of whether of just them not winning or getting hurt, all these things that you didn't think about when you were doing it.
Let's go to Al, then we'll go to Steve, Skip, and Ryan. Go ahead.
Hey, Jeff, Al Pearson, Motor Week. We've heard for years that drivers will tell us, more from where I sat, it was an exciting race, when we hear from fans back home watching on TV that it was just awful. Can you understand how a driver's perspective of a race and a fan's perspective may be diametrically opposed, and they both watch the same race?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but the driver's not watching the race; he's driving the race, and that's that. There's a tremendous amount of excitement and pressure and adrenaline rush that's going on inside that car. I mean, you could be racing for 26 and the camera never show you, and you may have had the best race and most exciting racing you've ever seen, but that doesn't mean people watched it or enjoyed it from home. So it's a huge difference. And the world we're in today, it's the one up there in the grandstands and the people at home that matter most. And sometimes we wish we could change that from inside the car, but we can't. So, there's no comparison at all. Those are completely different. What I think a driver is meaning when he says that is that you wish that the people watching that aren't inside the car, sometimes even our pit crew guys, you wish they could get in there and understand what you're going through, so that they would have a much better perspective of not only talking and criticizing or discussing the details of the race, but also to know what we're going through. That would certainly change. When I watch a race, for instance, I watch the race with a different type of view because I'm a driver, and I go, wow, that was an intense moment where it might, not have even phased somebody that's never driven a race car.
We'll go to Steve and then to Skip.
Steve Richards of PRN. You talked about testing a little bit earlier, Jeff. Do you have a testing game plan that you can share with us?
We're going to New Hampshire next week. We're going to Richmond. A couple weeks after that, I think we're going to Texas, and we're going to Homestead in the next month.
And how much input do you have on that?
Again, we discuss it in our Tuesday meetings. We throw. I think all the crew chiefs get together in their Monday meetings, and they come up with which tracks they'd like to go to. They talk to their drivers and kind of get that information, and then on Tuesday, we usually look at it up on a board, and then we come up with the best scenario that works for all of us. For me, I feel like we have a good game plan that works for all of us. I think, again, I said earlier, it's a compromise with the organization. And when you have 4 teams, not everybody is going to be perfectly suited. But I think in this case, it suits our needs to get ourselves in the chase. And if we get in the chase, I think it suits our needs and our teammates to be very competitive, in the chase.
Far right over here. Skip, go ahead.
Jeff, you were here for the IndyCar race. Your thoughts about that weekend? You had your son here with you.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was so cool to see those cars doing those types of speeds around this track. That's probably the thing that stood out the most. That was most impressive to me. The cars are very cool, so I enjoy seeing them up close and seeing the technology that they have. I think my son kind of liked that too. You know, seeing the difference between our cars and the Indy cars. I can tell you what, I'm very, very, very appreciative of this sport and this series that we're in, because when you drive in that tunnel for an IndyCar race and you drive in here for a NASCAR race, you get a perspective of how big our sport is. Yeah, I talked to a few of the drivers. You know, I thought it was interesting because at Indy they were, you know, I thought that was some of the most amazing racing that I had seen in the IndyCar series in a long time, and I was hoping Pocono might offer some of that same type of racing. But they were saying that turn 3 just was too long and flat of a corner for them to maintain that momentum behind somebody to get that big draft and make all those passes down the straightaway. Versus Indy, and I thought that was very interesting, and it was true. Once the race started, you know, that's pretty much what they had, and you know, I was blown away the speeds they ran qualifying. I mean, gosh, you know, 222, you know, to go flat out around here, you know, I was thinking about it today coming down pit road, how much I was braking going into turn 3, going, wow, I can't imagine those guys just running wide open, but. Yeah, the biggest thing that stood out when I got here last night was just all the motorhomes, you know, all the tents and camping, and you know, the number of fans that are here for the NASCAR races. Sometimes we see the decline or something going flat, or you know, we're not seeing these filled up grandstands, and we sit here and say, oh boy, you know, what's going on? But let me tell you, you know, you go to an IndyCar race and then a month later, or 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, come back here, and we better be very thankful for how many people we have here. It's pretty amazing.
We'll go 2 more questions. Dustin Long, and then with Ryan McGee.
Dustin Long, Motor Racing Network. Jeff, 2 things. I know you were talking earlier about younger drivers, and I know you qualified it with the fact of if they were driving for Hendrick Motorsports because of the investment opportunity.
I didn't say. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So I want to throw it out in the sense of a guy like Kyle Larson. And again, I know he's not a Hendrick property. Is he doing the right thing, or how is that helping his career running as much as he does on dirt? How do you see that with somebody like him? Because certainly he's brought a lot of attention. And the second question I want to ask you is, I know last week you talked about being excited about the Eldora race and kind of threw out the idea of a cup or whatever at Eldora. But what I wanted to ask you is, if it's only trucks at Eldora, would you consider going back and driving a truck at Eldora next year or something like that, not a cup car?
Right. No, you know, I think, and I go back and reference 1991 for me. You know, that was my first full year in the Nationwide Series, and at that time, you know, you're building your career, you're align yourself with the best teams that you can, winning, you know, trying to win races and trying to establish yourself to get to that next level. So, you know, I think that Kyle is quickly doing that and obviously getting a lot of attention. And I think he should race everything that he possibly can get behind the wheel of. The tricky part is going to be when he is either running for a nationwide championship or does make that move to Cup, where he starts to you know, draw the line on some of that, because you know that sprint car racing's in your blood and you want to do it, but again, you know, the Cup team and sponsors put so much, invest so much into it that you want full attention, and you know, it can either be a distraction or it could actually help you. You know, you never know. So everybody might handle it a little bit differently, but I would certainly think there'd be some cutting back, maybe not being quite as much of that. He's doing beyond what he should be doing. Let me tell you, that kid is unreal. You know, I wish we had, you know, 5 or 6 more of him. I'm trying to think the other part.
Would you get in a truck at Eldora?
They need to shorten the rear bumpers on those things. You know, they look pretty loose to me before the rubber got down the track, but it looked like fun. You know, my whole thing, whatever I'm driving, whether it be a dirt late model, a sprint car, a truck, or nationwide, or Cup, I just want to be competitive. I want to get enough laps in the car and be with a good enough car or truck, or you know, to really be competitive at it. And for Tony's charity event, that's for charity, and we go there and have fun. But I can tell you, the fun quickly went away in that event as guys started ramping up the seriousness and competitiveness of their cars and teams. And that to me, I didn't have the time to commit to it. So I was like, I'm not interested, if that's the way it's going to be. If you just show up and kind of run whatever you have and go have fun and everybody's laughing about it, then that's one thing. But as soon as it gets very competitive, then all of a sudden the fun starts to come away and the whole meaning of it starts to get blurred. But I never say never. I watched it. I watched practice. I watched qualifying. I watched the heat races. So I certainly was glued to it from a spectator standpoint, and I was very impressed with the job that the drivers and the teams did. I was expecting to see a lot more chaos. So that part was fun. So yeah, it made me think, I'd like to get out there and try, but I have no plans to.
Final question, Ryan McGee. Raise your hand there, Ryan. Thank you.
Ryan McGee, ESPN. Jeff, the first time that you were in this position where you were battling for a chase spot, you commented several times about how difficult it was. Mentally, it was harder than maybe you thought it was going to be. Unfortunately, you've been in this position a couple times now. Any easier, any different? How's it feel?
No. I mean, this year has been a strange year for us. I feel like, I feel like last year we showed a little bit more speed up to this point, to where I felt like all we needed was some breaks to go our way and a few slight changes to get ourselves in. Where this year, I don't know, we just can't ever seem to really get a hold of it. So I'm approaching it the same way, where give the best information I can to the team. Continue to just work as hard as I can as a driver to bring us together to make those opportunities happen. And the last couple of weeks have gone decent, but I know we're just capable of doing so much more. So it's frustrating. It is. I think there's been frustration this year throughout the team that we haven't been able to perform better than we have. So it's every year that we've gone through this, it's a different kind of stress level. There are stress levels of meeting your full potential. There's stress levels of trying to not have some silly thing happen, or there's a stress level of, one little incident. But for me this year, it's been a combination of needing more performance, especially qualifying, and then I drew number 1 today, so that's going to be interesting. And also, I feel like this year it's been very, very difficult because we haven't qualified good, being further back in the pack and not able to pass, not able to get up through there, or it doesn't seem like we've been able to get the strategy timed out at the right time. Seems like, this year we've had many times where every time we try to short pit, the caution comes out. Time we try to stay out, the caution comes at the wrong time. So, those kinds of things have been frustrating this year, but none of it stops us from working hard together. We've been through enough that this team sticks together and they fight, and we'll continue to do that all the way to the end of the season.
Jeff Gordon, thanks for coming in. Good luck this weekend. We appreciate it.